But I think he's saying more. Because look at what it says here again. Ye servants of the Lord, which by night stand in the house of the Lord. The house of the Lord might refer to the temple itself. Servants of the Lord would be those who serve in the temple. The question is, what do you do at night? Now, assuming that people arrived at the temple for restoration or ritual, they would bring with themselves the sacrifices needed as prescribed by law. They would engage as a form of worship to offer those sacrifices unto the Lord. You can imagine that through the course of the day, that's got to get messy. Because you're slaying animals so that they might be sacrificed. And while you're waiting for your animals, ain't no telling what's going on the floor. And so after all of the worshiping and reconciliation and restoration has occurred, you can imagine that the temple is a mess. And so the folk who show up for the night shift are the folks who clean up after all the worshiping is done. After all of the restoration and reconciliation has occurred, after folk have come in and had that experience with the temple in the presence of God, there is some mess that is left as a result of worship, that the people who show up at night are the ones who clean the mess up. Now you might be saying to yourself, well, preacher, we don't offer sacrifices in here, so I don't understand how this would be applicable to us. But I would argue that even though we don't do sacrifices, worship is still messy for us. Because don't you know that when people come in here and begin to worship, that you expose all their problems, their shortcomings, and their dilemmas? That they're worshiping in the presence of a living God, and after they get through with the ecstatic moment, after they've gotten through with the song, after they've gotten through shouting, there have been some things revealed in their life that now have to be dealt with. And those of us who are here in the house of worship recognize it's about more than you just getting excited on this pew. But when you get through and getting excited, we're here to help you clean up the mess that's going on in your life. Don't you know there are some folk here who recognize that worship is about more than the song that just got sung? Worship is about more than you simply getting here and feeling good. There are some of us who gather here to help you when the worship is over, to begin to fix the problems in your life. And maybe he's talking to them. Bless you for calling Sister So-and-so, because you saw her at the altar crying her eyes out because something was going wrong in her life. And you recognize I'm not supposed to just stand by her and say, girl, it's going to be all right. But sometime on Wednesday, I need to give her a call and see how she's doing. Maybe you're one of the folks who heard that somebody had a death in their family, and your care for them didn't stop when the altar call ended, but you decided, let me swing by and see how you're doing and help you out some way. Maybe you're one of the folks that saw somebody come down the aisles broken, wounded, and discouraged, and you remembered what it was like to come down to this altar. So you got up there off your hip and you met them through the course of the week and said, baby, listen, what he's done for me, he will do for you. I know you might not feel it right now, but let me help you through this moment, because worship is about more than what happens here. Maybe that's one of the folk that he was mentioning. Those who were assigned to deal with the aftermath of what happened at the temple. Those who attend to the residuals of worship. For worship can get messy. Worship is more than just an emotional high. Worship is more than a fleeting moment of feeling good. Worship is more than a spiritual one-night stand where you leave happy, but you don't call them the next day. Worship is about more than that. And there have to be some of us who are willing that when you have your messy moment in worship, we are there to help you get your act back together again. Okay. Maybe you ain't called nobody. Maybe you saw somebody come down the aisle, but you didn't move. Maybe you're not one of the ones who've been working at night. Okay, fair enough. I think the text is still talking to you. For it says, the servants of the Lord would stand by night in the house of worship. And we recognize that because of the blood of Jesus on our lives, the house of worship has moved from a physical dwelling to a physical one. So I'm the house of the Lord. And so in what ways might I stand at night in this house to serve the Lord? Well, we just got through saying it. I mean, the answer is clear here. Maybe I didn't help somebody else. but maybe I was there to clean up my own mess. Maybe I didn't look around to see who needed what, but I came in here to have some worship. And in the process of being put before the presence of a living God, in the middle of me singing that song that touched my heart, I realized just how good God has been to me. I realized how much he's done for me. I realized how he's been standing by me. And I realized I can't keep on living the way I'm living. When I begin to get confronted with the goodness of God, it makes some demands on me. It says to me, if you really love him as much as you just got through hollering and screaming, then you ought to go back to your house and fix up your mess. Maybe he's asking us to begin to turn ourselves internally and say, if you really want to engage in worship, worship should not just change you, but you got to leave here and do something about it. Maybe he's saying it's time out for you just knowing the song. Now you got to know its meaning. Maybe it's time out for you just showing up. I mean, showing up is good. We're glad to have you here. I appreciate the fact you put on your fine clothes, got out of your couch, as cold as it is outside, brought your hips to worship. God bless you. But if worship stops when we get to the benediction, you miss the point of worship. If all worship is for you is an appointment on Sunday mornings, it's not real worship yet. If all you do is come here and sing the song and go home, or on occasion buy yourself a CD, that's not real worship. Real worship ushers you to the presence of a living God, and it is impossible to stand before God and not see the fault in your own life. There ought to be something about worship that says to you, if he was willing to die on the cross, I'm willing to live differently. If I've been saved by his blood, if he thought enough of me to meet me in the middle of the mess I was in, the least I can do as a form of worship is change my own mess. I